Brian Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. Good evening, everybody. Today on December 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones in between and all around the world. We are live streaming on our Facebook site, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, and we are also live on Kardec Radio. I encourage everybody to go to Kardec Radio. It's Kardec Radio. You can play that 24 hours a day on your iOS, your Apple phone, or your Android phone. It's in the PlayStation or the application store, the App Store. It's free. Load that app up and you can get Spiritist programs 24 hours a day. Also, please join my Facebook site, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. You can join it. We live stream every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And what we do is we bring you information about Spiritism. In this program, tonight, this evening, depending where you are, or daytime or morning, we have listeners from all around the globe. We also post these episodes on our YouTube site. You can find our YouTube site on our site. It's on www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that's NW as in Northwest. We are located up in the Northwest, close to Seattle. nwspiritism.com. We have these programs. We post them to our YouTube channel where you can look at them too. So tonight is episode 4. We are going through one of the books I just released in November. This is Heaven and Below, Book 1 of Spiritism, the Spirit World Revealed to an Anglican Vicar. This is the information that was revealed by spirits, many different spirits, different levels of spirits, to the Reverend G. Vale Owen. Was fascinating. Now remember, Spiritism was brought to us by Allan Kardec in the 1850s. He was the one who originally codified Spiritism. And you can look at his books. You can go to my site, nwspiritism.com. You can click on his picture in the upper right-hand corner. It'll take you to the EDI-CEI bookstore, and you can find his books. And also, in his first book, really the book to read, to see the headwaters of the codification of Spiritism, is the Spirits book. He has 5 main books, and you can actually find any of his books on PDF. So if you just go into whatever your search engine you like to use, type in Allan Kardec, and then space PDF, you'll find his books. That's how I found Spiritism, as I found his books on PDF. I read the Spirits book, and it was, from then on, that's my answer. That is what I was looking for. Now I understand. And from there, it is the more you understand and the more you read about Spiritism, the better you feel, the more calm you feel, the more you can go through your trials and tribulations on earth. You can see and you understand why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. You understand the whole art of history of each one of us. And as part of that, as years went by, I then found the works of the Reverend G. Vale Owen, who never really mentioned the word Spiritism, but everything he wrote is additive to Spiritism. And I go through this book, and I go through his messages, and I categorize them. And in this book, I categorize them by what is heaven like, right? What is the area below, and then how is Christ seen in heaven? Who is Jesus Christ in heaven? We'll get to that, but I'll tell you right now, he is like the CEO. He's the governor of our planet, and actually other planets besides. But he is a leader, and he is more than what we read in the Bible. I mean, it's all that and more. It's truly a magnificent story, and there's truly wonderful things that have been presented to us by the spirits, presented to the most wonderful Reverend G. Vale Owen. A lot of his friends call him GVO. He died, I think, before World War II started. He got his revelations in the 1910s and 20s. He serialized his messages from the spirits, and his messages were so revelatory that he was actually kicked out of the Church of England. But the H.G. Wells actually, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, H.G. Wells, others actually helped get a trust fund for him so he could still live and support his family, because he didn't take any money for publicizing the messages that he got from spirits. So now let's get to it. Let's talk about, this is from the Spirit Zabdial, and one of the messages in the Highlands of Heaven section that was given to the Vale Owen. And he talks about a capital city on the 5th level of heaven. And it's interesting because he said that this capital city had a great gate of palaces of liquid stone. He says that's quite literally what you should look at it as. It's not solid, but in flux. And the colors of the gate, they change from moment to moment, affected both by what went forward within and what was outside of that gate. Now, I have seen near-death experiences, reports of near-death experiences, where people said, I saw this bright stone with different colors. And this is why I love Spiritism, because it takes so much of what you found in near-death experiences and says, well, yes, well, a spirit talked about this. So I think this proves, I mean, not every near-death experience, but I think it proves the fact that people aren't just making these things up. What they are seeing is, and if you compare that against Spiritism, what spirits have told us through reputable mediums corresponds. It correlates. And in fact, in my book, The Spirit World Talks to Us, one of the near-death experiences, a woman actually saw this shining stone. And I talk about, and I talk about, this is true. Your vision is true. And there's other things I told her that was true. And she was greatly amazed that other people were actually giving proof to what she saw. I've seen that from many people in near-death experiences that I've talked to, when I tell them, okay, well, what you saw is also reported by the spirit. And they go, wow, I thought everyone thought, everyone I talked to personally thought I was a complete, on drugs or an idiot. But now I see other people are talking about this. This is the wonderful things about the land. There's bad things about the internet, and then there's good things about the internet. We can compare, and we can contrast information from all around. So the capital city on the 5th level of heaven. It was on a great plain, right? And of course, and it had watchtowers all around it. And it was very beautiful to look at. And this is what Zabdial said. He says, there was a gateway, massive on either side and blending to the wall of the main structure, solid above the square arch and changing in beauty as the colors change. One part only was constant. That was the great keystone in the middle above, which was always and ever shown red for love. So this is amazing. So he actually lived there. At the time when he was telling us about the 5th level, he was living on the 10th level. And during his time from rising to the 4th, and before he was promoted to the 6th sphere, he was actually residing on the 5th sphere in this capital city in heaven. So he had personal knowledge of it. And on the 5th level, which will all of us will eventually go from one level to the next, there are edifices beyond our capabilities and superior to our imagination, all made possible by higher spirits who possess the skill to create with thought. So this is one of the main things I think that once you understand that everything in the spirit world, thought is action, then you understand why we go through the trials we do on earth, because we have to become civilized and we have to learn to control our minds. We can't look at someone and say, oh, I don't like that person. That person's too thin, too fat, too tall, too short, right? We have to look at everyone. And believe me, this is not easy. We have to look. I still fail constantly. We have to look at everyone and look at people with love and understanding. Because if you have the power of creating action from your mind, you have to be trained. Would you want a pilot flying your plane that didn't go hours and hours on simulators and went through every experience? No, of course not. And then you want that person with someone else who has more experience than they do and fly, right? And always be there, right? So this is exactly what we're going through. We're going through, each life is a course in the simulator. And sometimes in the simulator, you crash and you burn. But you know what? You learn from that crash and burn. This is why bad things happen. Now, sometimes people have, in this Spiritism, sometimes we have to repair our past mistakes. We have to learn from what we did in the past. So then we have to really internalize. So it's just like going to the simulator and taking another simulator and doing that same crash thing over again, but this time doing it right. So this whole idea of thought as action really is you need to internalize that and understand that is why we're here on earth. So then Zebdal describes the city. He says, we passed within and found many roomy chambers about the gateway, in which were recorders who read the messages and influences coming at the gate, divided them in their own proper groups, and sent them whither they should go. They had expected our coming, and 2 youths were waiting in the roadway beyond the gate to lead us to the angel Lord. We passed down the broad street, whereupon went people happy of face, as ever people are hereabout. I simply write it down for you who sometimes and often do not smile for contentment within. For us, it is as we should tell you the sky today is blue in Egypt in the summertime. So think about what he said. This is the greatness of what was revealed to the Reverend G. Vale Owen. This gives us glimpses, right? We're not told everything about heaven, but we're given glimpses. And so just that idea that people are smiling, people are content. Right? Imagine living contentedly day after day. The stress of coping with normal life, negative thoughts from others, danger lurking in whatever decision you make is all erased. Imagine being surrounded by positive feelings, by beauty, by animals who are well treated and love their job. No sickness, no aging, no death, where your day is full of work for the benefit of others, educational pursuits, and community. This is the scene described by Zebdal. This is life in the capital city in the 5th sphere of heaven. People are smiling. Now, Zebdal had business to perform in the palace of the chief lord of the city. And he described the palace. He said, we ascended the steps before it and passed beneath a porch which ran along its front and through a door into the central hall. It was also square, built with high pillars of liquid stone, like the gate. And these were also changing continuously in hue, but did not all wear the tint of color at any one moment as the gate did. They were diverse. There were 20 and 2 of them, and each was different. Seldom were 2 of them the same color at one time, and this gave a very pleasant aspect to the hall. They were also made to blend together, their beauties in the large dome of crystal above, and that was a sight even more lovely, and you must try to imagine, for it is beyond my power to describe. So again, he's telling us about these beautiful, colorful buildings, right? We're used to more subdued earth tones, and heaven's things are bright. People are happy. It's like living in a tropical paradise without the constant overheat and the humidity. So next he tells us that there's usually one city in chief, one major metropolis that is responsible for governing all the other cities and villages in that sphere. So there's usually one person, there's one main city with little tributaries of other cities, and then one person of charge, and there's other people in charge of the other cities, but the one person is in charge of the whole sphere. It goes, but in sphere 5, there are 3 chief lords, all who rule over separate areas of the 5th sphere. Now, this is what he tells us. And I haven't figured this completely out yet, but maybe other people will. So you can let me know your opinion. The reason of this threefold domination is found in that this sphere stands at that altitude which, having attained, a choice has to be made as to the particular way to be followed thereafter. It is kind of a sorting room, as one would say, wherein are the inhabitants in the course of the sojourn there, classified into their proper groups, and proceed onward in that special branch of service for which they most properly are fitted. So interesting. See, so it's like you go to high school, and in some countries, right, you're automatically put off to vocational school or university or somewhere else. And by your scores and by your aptitude, you are shunted to other places. And I've not found any more information on what the three choices entail. I surmise that there must be some fit into a combination of what a spirit wishes and the talent and capabilities of a spirit, which would permit them in a certain direction. An analogy, as I said before, another analogy is like a technical organization, where there's a career path for those who desire to stay technical and a parallel path for those who desire to rise in management. And in another passage concerning the building of a temple of Sphere 5, the Spirit Kathleen says, which was, this is in another area, and whatsoever spheres at any future time the company who created it be dispersed, they are always have in that building a focus of communion, real and vivid. So she's talking about people who created with their minds a temple. And the joy of it all is only such as you will know when you attain to creatorship in these spheres, if that be your line of ascent in the kingdom of God. So what's interesting about that quote that I took from another passage is the statement, if that be your line of ascent in the kingdom of God. Therefore, we are being told that we have options as to what type of future work we shall be performing in the spirit world. So there are different paths to ascend higher. One of them, we are told, is the act of creatorship. And I'll get into that more, and actually a lot of that in book 2, where I talk about the different levels of education in the spirit world. You go lower level, higher level, and the more you learn, and the attributes of a spirit. What are the powers of a spirit? That's been revealed to us through the writings and messages of spirits to the Reverend G. Vale Owen. So this is very interesting. So, and we know that is what Zabdal has told us in other parts, is that once you graduate after the 10th level, you're able to exercise your creatorship. Now, what these other levels do, these other 2 paths out of the 3 paths, I'm not sure. So if anybody has an idea, I would love to hear it. I would venture to surmise that not every soul would wish to continue to climb up the ladder to be responsible for creating greater and greater edifices, where eventually one could be in charge of forming planets and solar systems. And so let's talk about creatorship for a second. So in the Spirit Emmanuel, in the book On the Way to the Light, though now, again, as I said before, information given us by GVO is seconded by information we have from Spiritist mediums. And the Spirit Emmanuel, who was the spirit mentor of the great late Brazilian medium Francisco C. Xavier, also called Chico Xavier. And the book On the Way to Light, which I have to recommend to everybody, is wonderful because it really tells how the spirit world has guided the whole planet and how they don't just guide us, right, our guardian angels, our plans we have for life. They guide the whole human race, the cultures, all of us. So he reported that Jesus was one of the spirits who helped create our planet. So therefore, this path not only entails great architectural talent, this creative path, but most probably leadership as well, since Jesus is the governor of our planet and others besides. And Jesus holds the spiritual path of billions of spirits on and around the earth in his very capable hands. And I wouldn't second guess anyone who would pass on that great responsibility. So then, talking back on the 5th level of heaven, Zabdal describes the locations of the 3 cities. This is what he says. These 3 cities stand near the borderline of a very large flat continent, and a line drawn through them would form an equilateral triangle. For this reason, the broad roads of each city spread out from the largest square, where stands the house, fan-like through the city and onward in right lines across the open country. These communicate with the other two chief cities and the settlements of the plain. But in the middle of the triangle, there's a temple of worship and offering, which stands within a large circular grade up in the midst of a forest. With this temple, all the roads are linked up by other crossroads, and hither at certain times and seasons come deputies from the 3 cities and settlements under their charge to combine the worship of God. Thousands and tens of thousands come at one time from all quarters of the sphere. It is a very wonderful sight to see. They come in parties and meet together in the glade, and all the different colors of that sphere, mingling, also make a pretty show to behold. So you have this. All these things tell you, and I'm hoping this concept gets through. Heaven isn't this ethereal cloud, or life on a beach with a just warmth and doing nothing. Heaven. There's complex organizations. There's work. There's someone has to take care of the city. Who builds the roads? And they build them by thought, of course, but who makes the roads? Who decides to make the roads? How is a person determined to be in charge of a city? Are they voted in? I think it's all done by superior spirits. It's a more benign, paternalism, maternalism. So, I mean, there's just so much to what can be in heaven. There's just, we're looking through this little keyhole, and we're just, trying to discern these things from these messages we get. So you can, and in his talking about the 3 cities and people meeting, you can detect the spirit world works to promote solidarity and cooperation amongst all of its inhabitants. And the structure of heaven circling the earth is ring after ring of ever-increasing support of the levels below in the regions around and under the earth. There is an army of helpers watching us and waiting to assist. How do we get assistance? We only have to meditate and pray for guidance, and it will be provided. The same care for the populace of the 5th sphere of heaven is also afforded us, and even more, for we are in the middle of great and arduous test. And Zabdal reminds us of the tight bonds between spirits and foreshadows what life will be like in the spirit world when we arrive there. This is what he says. Goes, but more lovely than these is the sense of unity in diversity. Some are beginning to progress onward in one direction and some in another, but over, in, and throughout that vast assembly, the one vibrant note of deep love pulsates. And all know that this is enduring, and that whatever be their future destination can enable them to come at one another in whatever part of God's large domain they be forever. So there's no foreboding of coming separation. We know not any such here, for where love is, what you know as separation and its sorrow cannot come. Even on earth, this would be so now had not man sinned and gone away from the right path of development. It would be hard for them to regain this now, but it is possible, for the faculty remains. It is sleep unawakened, except in a very few. So what love is the overriding constant in the spirit realm. It infuses everything. And this is why you want to go through the arduous task of following your conscience and trying to mold your character and personality in order to be able to gain entrance to heaven. You have to earn that right. You have to earn that right. You have to show self-control. You have to show love. You have to show charity, fraternity, honesty. Not constant, right? No, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to want to try and do better. So that is why with love comes understanding, calmness, and an absence of fear. Since there's no anxiety, there's no stress when one is surrounded by love. And there's an example of this. So in another passage that was sent by this a group of people who were actually they use a spirit called Kathleen to communicate to Reverend G. Vale Owen. And this usually happens, like even with Chico Xavier, there was a group of spirits, but then they use one spirit to coalesce their thoughts. And when the person who knew the mind of that person the best, they could put the thoughts into that person's mind. Again, they used Kathleen, this other group, it wasn't Zabdal. And they used Kathleen. She was had a more recent life. She understood the idiom of the English that Reverend G. Owen spoke. And she gave an example of high spirits among us, right? When Zebdal talked about this, some spirits had learned and learn about love and learn how to behave even on earth. And there are high spirits among us going about simple and humble lives in total obscurity. People have next to nothing, yet are kind, generous, and caring. They never steal or rob or shave money off the top or take advantage of others. They insist on remaining true to their fellow humans. These are the people we should idealize and hold up for recognition. Of course, in our culture, imagine how hard that is. Excuse me, with water. She gives an example of a poor cobbler, a shoemaker, back, centuries ago in England, who had just enough money left after his death to pay for his burial and was shocked to find out who he was when he came back to heaven. She tells us that while in the short one may enjoy, she's telling us, he goes, look, in the short run, you may enjoy the trappings of luxury. That time is all too short compared to the eternity we leave in the spirit world. Making sacrifice and caring about others brings the true long-term benefits. I cannot emphasize that enough. The Spirit Kathleen explains that our motive in whatever enterprise we undertake is what is important. Do we work and toil for ourselves, or do we strive to help others? Both can occur simultaneously. I think back at my time when I worked for a firm that made laboratory equipment. We created blood analysis devices. They were like little factories that tested blood and for many different levels of chemicals. And I remember the amount of effort we put into ensuring that we could analyze blood from the tiny samples that premature infant provided. And everyone on the team spent hours trying to determine the best way to provide for testing little 1 and 2 pound babies. And believe me, it's hard getting blood out of this cute little preemie babies. And no one told us from senior management to spend this much time and effort on the problem. We just did it because collectively we knew it was the right thing to do. Not the most profitable, but it was the right thing to do. That's an example. The Spirit Kathleen provided, G. Vale, an example of how life should be lived. And this is what she said about the cobbler. A cobbler who earned just enough to pay his dues and had not over when his burial fees were paid came over here many years ago, as you say. He was received soberly by a small group of friends and was well content that they had borne him so much in mind as to come so far as to earth to show him his way to the sphere where he should go. It was one of those near earth, not a high one, and as I say, he was well content. For there he found peace after much toil and weariness and his battle with poverty, and leisure to go and see the various interesting sights and places of the sphere. To him it was heaven indeed, and all were kind to him, and he was very happy in their company. One day, to use your earth phrasing, a lord from a higher sphere came along the street where was his home, and went within. He found the cobbler reading out of a book which he had found in the house, when he was taken there and told it was his home. The angel Lord called him by his name. I don't remember what it was, but the cobbler arose. He goes, What read you, my friend? The angel asked him. And the man answered thus, It is not of much interest to me, sir, that I read it. It is just within my comprehension. Indeed, for it was evidently written not for the people of this sphere, but one of much higher. To what end was it written? The angel asked again. And he replied, Sir, it tells of high estate and enterprise, of the ordering of great companies of men and women in those spheres above us, in the service of the one Father. These people, I find, were once of nations and faith diverse from one another, for so the manner of speech would seem to show. But to the writer, the book, they do not seem diverse anymore, for they have, by long training and much progress, come together as a band of brethren. And there be no longer any divisions among them to divide them, neither in affection nor for one another, nor in reasonable understanding. They are at unity of purpose and service and desire. By that I judge that life herein written is not of this sphere, but one far above this. The book, moreover, is of instruction, not even for that bright company, but rather for the guidance of leaders amongst them. For it tells of statesmanship and of high rule and of the wisdom required for those who lead. For this reason, sir, it is not of interest to me presently, but it may be in some long distance age. How the book came here, I cannot tell. So one of the things that we're told in G. Owen's writings is that, and even Chico Xavier said this in his communication of Spiritism, is that in the first level of heavens, if you're a practicing Catholic, you will go to like a Catholic type city, and you'll notice that. Chico Xavier said he went to a celestial city above Jerusalem, right above Israel. Didn't see any mention of Jesus, right? They were Jewish. They did not recognize. So that was all acknowledged by the Spirit that, yes, you can stay within your comfort zone. And same thing for Buddhists and Hindus, Muslims, whatever. There are cities that were, where these things are acknowledged, and you can live the way you lived on earth. Now you have to be nice and a good person, right? And still you can still be religious. And some people have no religion. They go to celestial cities where it's very little. But as you're in the spirit world, you will learn the truth. You will learn that there really is, what is Spiritism, right? That we are all one. We're all there on earth to learn. There's not just one way. There's just not one sage of honoring God. And that's why you exist. As you go higher and higher, you lose that saying, no, I'm not going to talk to this Protestant, right? I'm not going to talk to this person because, that person doesn't believe and doesn't say prayers the way I do and wears funny clothes, right? No, that all, as you go higher and higher, that all disappears. You understand we are all souls in pursuit of perfection. And that's one of the great truths, right? God loves us all, no matter what. And you have to, when you see bad people, you have to separate the deed from the person, because all of us are on some level, some arc of existence, and everybody will become perfect someday. It may take eons, like me. It could take billions of years, but they will be. So, again, then the angel Lord he took the book, and he closed it, and he handed it back to the cobbler silently, and he took it from the angel's hands. The cobbler's cheeks flushed in confusion, because on the cover, which was composed of were gems of ruby and white, his order of spelling flashed back his name in light and fire. And the cobbler says, "But I did not see it. I did not see my name thereon, but now." He goes, "Yet it is yours, as you see," said the angel, "and so for your instructions. For know you, my friend, this sphere is but a resting place for you. Now you have rested, you must begin your work. And not here, but in that higher sphere of which the book tells and in which it was written." The cobbler faltered in his speech, for he was afraid, and shrank back and bent his head before the angel's words. This only he could say. He goes, "I'm a cobbler. Sir, I'm not a leader of men, and I'm content with the humble place in this bright home, which is heaven indeed for such as I." But the angel said, "Now, for that saying alone, you should have advancement. But you must know that true humility is one of the most sure shields and safeguards of those who stand in high places to rule. But you have more weapons than this shield of humility, which is protective in a passive way. Weapons of offense you also have been tempering and sharpening in that life on earth. When you made boots, your thoughts were to make them so they would endure long wear and so ease the purse of the poor buyer of them. You thought more of this than the price you would be paid. That indeed you made a rule, and that rule grew into you and became part of your character. Here, such a virtue is not lightly esteemed." Who of us can say that? I know I can't. Who of us would have been a cobbler or make anything, and making that thing cared more about the utility for someone to use it because they were poor and they wanted to make sure that lasted as long as possible, as they could make that as well as they could to benefit that person, more than they were worried about the profit they would make. I'm not there yet. I wish I was. I will try to be there. But isn't that like the most wonderful thing you could say about a person? that person spent more time on his work trying to help others than he helped himself or herself. I can't think of a greater praise that you could say. And I tell you, when I read that, I mean, first, because when I read the cobbler focused more on the people he could serve than the amount he would gain, I realized how far from true selflessness I am. In the back of my mind, there's always some thought of how an action could be a benefit to myself. I don't think I have ever been completely altruistic. I'm very disappointed. But second, the high cobbler told the cobbler, the rule became part of your character. Is exactly why we're here on earth, to learn to internalize these traits and to make themselves part and parcel of our daily attitude. I recognize how far I am from that blessed state, but at least I recognize that is a state that I need to achieve. I need to work towards. In that one paragraph is everything we need to know to improve ourselves, everything we need to know about why we need to reincarnate, everything we need to know how to ascend in the spirit realm. Imagine living in a world where everyone would be like the cobbler, where each action is measured against the good it could do, not the profit it could offer. For if we do good for others, our reward will come. It's amazing. I read in a book by Edgar Evans Casey, the son of the famous American medium Edgar Casey, where he detailed his family's lack of resources, right? While people from all over the United States would write to Edgar Casey asking for life readings and cures for their illnesses, the son, Edgar Evans, tells us that once Edgar Casey asked how he could provide more for his family. And here's the question he put and the answer. And the question is, in consideration of the fact that Edgar Casey is devoting his entire time to work, give the reason for his not being able to obtain sufficient financial support for him and his family material sustenance. And how may he, Edgar Casey, correct this condition? So here you have, again, a very altruistic person saying, can I get a little bit more? I mean, Edgar Evans said, his dad would just, come home with something. And, there was always hand to mouth, right? Like many of us. And this is the answer he was given by his spirits. And Edgar Casey never said he was a spiritist, but it just shows you the similarity. The answer: live closer to him who giveth all good and perfect gifts. Ask and ye shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Give and it shall be returned fourfold. Give, give, give if you would receive. There's never been the lack of necessities, neither will there. So as long as adhering to the Lord's way is kept first and foremost. And after that answer, Edgar Evans reported the family did have the necessities. They weren't starving and they weren't homeless. He understands that we don't need everything we desire. Instead, we should turn to what we do need, which is spirituality. Only that can we take with us beyond the grave. Altering our character while on earth is our main reason. It's our main mission. Everything else is secondary. Nothing is more important than this. Spiritism was sent to help us learn how to modify ourselves. The good angel, the high angel, went on with this praise for the life of the cobbler. Again, this is what he's telling the though hard pressed to pay your dues, yet from time to time you gave an hour out of daylight to help some friend gather in his harvest, to plant his plot of ground, to thatch his roof or rick, or perchance to watch some sick man by his bedside. The hours thus given you restored by candlelight, for you were poor. This also noted from this side by reason of the glowing brightness of your soul, as we can see the world of men from our vantage point, where the light of the sphere, sweeping over our shoulders from behind, strikes on those in the earth life, and is reflected back by the virtues in men, and finds no reflector in their vices. So the souls of those who live well are lightened, but dark and somber show the souls of those who live ill lives. The spirit world can see. They don't see us. They don't see like me as a body or you just as a body. They see either the brightness, the dimness, the darkness. They see our spirit. They see our aura. They see how mature we are spiritually. How much love do we have? In one of the books dictated by the Spirit under Luis to Francisco Xavier. He talked about going down to Rio de Janeiro, just seeing this clouds, black clouds and buses, people worried about things, people thinking about how to get money, people thinking about how they want revenge. And he just saw all this black clouds of all these people, and preoccupied with just getting more. And of course, we, on earth, we have to weigh these things, but we have to weigh them equally. We have to watch what we're doing. And so it's just, the callbird really learned how to change his personality. That's really what it is. We are not this physical body. This physical body is unimportant. We are this energy, and we're trying to reform this intelligent force, this personality, as they call it in the spirit world, which controls all your intelligence, your love, your character, everything, your conscience. That's really what you take with you for immortality. That's your baggage. Everything else left behind. And then the High Lord continues to talk to the cobbler. It says, other things I could tell you what you did and why, but let these for the time suffice, for I tell you now my message. In the sphere of which this book tells, there awaits you a company of people. They have been trained and organized. Their mission is to visit a sphere near Earth from time to time and to receive from the hands of those who bring them the spirits who have lately come over. Their task is to study these newcomers and to allot each his proper place and to send him there by a band of helpers who attend for that purpose. They are ready to start any time and have only been awaiting their leader. Come, good friend, and I'll show you the way to them where they await you. Then the cobbler knelt down and put his forehead on the ground at the angel's feet and wept, said, if I were worthy, sir, for this great service, but alas, I'm not worthy, nor do I know this company, not whether they would follow me. And the angel Lord replied, the message comes from him who cannot err in the choice of person. Come, you will not find a band of strangers there. For often when your tired body slept, you're led into that same sphere. Aye, even in your earth life this was done. There you too were trained, and you learn first to obey and later to command. You will know them well when you see them, and they also know you well. He will be your strength, and you shall do valiantly. Then he led him forth from the house. And so as he journeyed, he started to regain his memories, right? And this is what happens when you pass over. You're a bit confused, but then you start regaining, and your memories are allowed back to you. Now, you may ask, are you allowed all your memories of your past lives? Only those of which you are capable of handling. So some people who go to the spirit world aren't allowed members of any past lives until they are spiritually ready to handle it. So now let's go more from the spirit of Kathleen. And she starts describing how these people band together to build a building, an edifice. And she talks about, the fifth level of heaven, is building a temple. Now, on earth, when we build something, right, there's plans, there's construction, there's material. You have to go quarry the material or mix the concrete, mine the copper to get the wires. There's everything. And assembly the physical structure is accomplished by manual labor here on earth. In heaven, building a temple is also a collective effort, but is a combination of the force of wills by multiple spirits. And she says that the material is of various colors and of various density. It is not put together in bricks nor blocks of stone as on earth, but grows in the piece one together. So, this is how she describes it. And this was on a plateau between the lower and higher lands of Sphere 5. This is how she describes building a temple. So again, these are all these higher spirits, higher than Sphere 5, using their minds, right? We assembled, therefore, and after silence, by way of harmonizing our personalities. Again, they always use that word personality. Into one endeavor, we concentrated our minds creatively on the foundation and gradually and very slowly raised the stream of our willpower from the ground upward and higher until we came to the dome-like roof. And there we stayed while the angel Lord, the leader of us, gathered the whole of our energies into his own and gently rounded off our endeavors by diverting the willpower stream into space while we begin to stay the current pulsing from our cells, each one. So a tight group of spirits, all with the same objective, use their minds and their collective thoughts to fashion a foundation and walls out of thin air. Except there is no such object as thin air, for air is not a thing nor nothing, but is composed as universal fluid. So the concept of universal fluid is brought to us by Allan Kardec, and it is even explained more in other books by Chico Xavier and other spiritist writers. Universal fluid is the basic building block of everything. And through spirits' minds, they create that. It's energy, and they can create that energy. They can turn that into matter by changing the vibrations and harmony of anything. Another person who had a vision one time, and he went to another one of these kind of out-of-body experiences, an OBE. I wrote about it in my book, The Spirit World Talks to Us. And he went to this universal library. Then he all of a sudden went down into this place, and he saw the pulsating, he saw the harmony, and he saw how the universe was this pulsating harmony that would come up. And again, this is all, what he saw corresponded to what Spiritism showed. This universal fluid. And even we are made out of universal fluid. And in Spiritist meetings, when they give you passes, what happens is I recommend this for anybody who's interested, is to go to a Spiritist meeting. I tell you, you can feel the energy coming into you. You will stand in a chair, sit in a chair. There'll be a person who will stand in front of you, and they will put their hands up and down. And you'll be able to, you can actually feel the energy coming from their hands. But behind them will be a spirit, you won't know unless you have that capability, who will take universal fluid and use the body of the spiritist, of the person giving the energy, to translate that into the vital fluid that fits you. And that vital fluid will help harmonize your body, help give you energy, and do many wonderful things for you. And it actually is it's very healthy for you. And I recommend that to everybody. Again, that's the whole concept of Reiki, right? So, these people, the laying of hands and the hands of power, that's the whole concept of that, is that people will take that energy and lay that on you. Now, what they don't understand is, I'm sure some of them understand, is that it's the spirits behind them that's helping fashion the energy, and just using that professional, that person, as a conduit to help the patient. So that's how that works. That's why universal fluid can be turned into anything. So then, as they made this temple, the small coterie of spirits conjuring material assembled the temple weren't created by an act of God. They were trained, right? These people are just like us. They were trained first by the civilizing process of reincarnation, whereby they lived multiple lives to follow the golden rule in the harsh atmosphere of earth. Next, after they attained the desire to follow the path of light and love, they were trained in successive levels of heaven. This is what's awaiting for us. We too need to be trained. Just like children who go to school and really aren't professional until they graduate and get to a certain level, we are like that too. We are not really productive members of spirit society yet. We are like children, kind of chaotic, running around trying to learn to become civilized. So while the team graduated from the University of Heavens, their leader, an angel lord, possessing of even higher learning experience, supplied the supervision and the finishing touches to the group's collective efforts. So Kathleen then says this. It goes, "Now this may sound strange in your mind, friend," as she's talking to the GVO, Reverend G. Vale Owen, "but the reason of it was this. We, our company, are well trained, and for long have exercised to act in concord. Nevertheless, in the finishing of the first stage of that fragile structure, it needed that a far more powerful personality control the forces we set in operation, or the building would have been either marred in shape or wrecked in structure, and our efforts would have been for naught. Further reason we find it hard to come at, so as you should be able to understand our words. Mayhap in thinking on the matter, you'll be able to see the reason of it, if not the method. Think of it out on the lines of severing of the cord umbilical, and also the other cord vital at death, or the two sudden shutting of a conduit by a sluice gate, or somewhat of a like nature, that you may glimmer what we fain would tell you back for the lack of words to tell it. So the angel Lord finished the withdrawal of the universal fluid from the spirit universe and neatly closed the package. He set everything in place by ordering the material that made up the foundation and walls of the temple to remain in the configuration created by the team. He released it from its last form and gave its new purpose. And hence, from that time on, until a new angel Lord might come and command the structure to decompose, the material would stand, never to deteriorate for eons to come. Wood doesn't rot. There's no rust on metal. Because it's created by thought, it is there. So this is why our earth is so different for us. This is why so many people have a hard time with life, right? And this is why, you can never give up on earth. Don't let anyone ever commit suicide, because, that is like cutting classes. You'll just need to come back again. It does no good to cut classes, because it's, okay, back in the class. Sorry, you cut early. You'll be in detention, and you got to go back. We're here to learn these lessons, to become this powerful. The more we understand it, and it helps us understand when we go through really hard, when we go through moments of you have no money, your wife or your husband left you, your boyfriend betrayed you. It's like, okay. That's another lesson we have to learn. Don't take it personally. Take it as a object lesson, as a learning lesson that was all created by the spirit world for your benefit. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's all for your benefit. It's to make you a better person. And if you can learn that from Spiritism, that would be so wonderful, because it makes you more calm about everything. It makes you understand, like, oh, okay. Well, that's like me, right? I know these things happen. And now that I know these things, like, if I invest money and my investment just goes down the tube, and I didn't put it on horses. I didn't do what I thought was stupid. But even then, I lost it all. It's like, okay, I must have taken it from someone else in another life. And now I'm not allowed to be wealthy. What's fine. I will live a simple, humble life. When I retire, I won't have much money, which is fine. I will live simple. I will try to be like the cobbler. I'll try and keep helping other people. And if you can say, okay, I accept that, and I'm going to learn from that. It just changes everything. Changes everything about your life. Well, let me finish describing the building. So the first stage was the outer building completeness. And then they took this outline and they went in and they just changed the inside, right? They created the inside. They made it beautiful. It was beautiful design and proportion. And they spent a lot of time into this. And then they said also that these people who created this edifice, they're always connected to it. They'll always be connected. They always have an emotional connection, which lasts until, forever, right? Wherever they are, there's a lifelong tie. And again, that kind of happens to us here on earth, right? In most people's life, they have experienced a connection with a certain house or place they lived, usually a childhood home or a relative's house, a secret hideaway, or a place of extreme beauty. They have an emotional connection, which lasts until they leave this earth. And imagine your favorite creation or place. Now think of having a lifelong tie where you feel the delight and satisfaction of each person that comes into contact. Wherever you are, that emotional pipeline extends. So that again tells us a little secret of the spirit world. Everything is connected. The supreme intelligence fashioned an invisible web of instantaneous information flowing from all corners of the universe. Any small bit of information which our unique identification had any association with, we all have a unique ID, flows to us at some intuitive level. It is the same in the physical world, only that we lack the ability to process the waves of data flooding our mind. So then she says, when the outer part was done and confirmed, there remained the work of greater detail within. So they fashioned all the inside. she talks about that. And then the temple is ready to be sanctified. She goes, and then there came a day when all was ready, and he returned with another, a mighty Lord, whose status was of sublimity higher than his own, and whose powers were what would in Israel be called those of Aaron and of them who followed him, and by the Greeks, Hierophant, and by the Christians, archpriest. The process he came to enact was what you would name sanctification. The angel who came to consecrate the temple was there to link the spiritually important building to those in the higher spheres who were responsible for its protection. Additionally, for the increased power of those who would use the temple to communicate with higher planes. Kathleen, the spirit Kathleen who talked to Vale Owen, said the same occurs on earth. Every place of worship is sanctified by the spirit world. No matter what religion, a protector watches over it. They watch over the flock who congregate there and amplifies their power to be able to commune with the spirit world. Walk into any church or temple or other shrine and stand for a moment. Just stand there and feel the harmony and the vibration. Search your feelings to determine if there is indeed a power watching over a sacred building. The spirit realm provides safe places to all of us. They are concerned that we learn to balance our material and with our spiritual needs. Discover by meditation or prayer how you can use the energy of the spirit world to help you grow. So, I hope this has helped people that today. I am so excited to bring this information to people to help spread the word of the Reverend Vale Owen. Again, this is in this first book, Heaven and Below. And also, if you want, look up his book. Beyond the Veil. You can read his book for yourself. It's great. And if you want, so go to my site. I have it, nwspiritism.com. You'll see all the books that I've written about and explaining Spiritism to people on the right-hand side. And you'll see Heaven Below, Spirits in the Spirit Universe, and then How We Are Guided by Spirits. That's the whole trilogy from Reverend Vale Owen books. And then you'll see other books of Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. That's a quick, good, it's a very small book. In fact, that's a good reason to go to the Facebook site, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, is if you go to the file sections, I have Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. I have that in PDF, but you can also get it in Kindle for 99 cents. It's also a paperback book, but you can just download it for PDF for just to get into Spiritism. Again, you can find all of Allan Kardec's books on PDF. It doesn't cost you anything. I've written other books, The Problem is the Solution, telling you how you can evaluate your life by looking at the problems you're going through and thinking what you must have done probably in the past life and how you can overcome whatever hurdles and trials and tribulations you are giving. I've written the 7 tenets of Spiritism, how they impact your daily life. This is more of a personal journey of how I found Spiritism, how Spiritism helped me, and how I started recognizing the signals and signs from the spirit world to channel me to where I should go. I'm still learning. All of us are still learning. So I want to thank everyone so much for being part of our program today. And I just want to bless all of you and hope that all of you will have a wonderful day and time. And again, remember, on my site, there's also, you can go to Spiritist meetings and you can find others. Click on that, and then in there talk about the meetings we have here on Bay Bridge Island. But you can also find other Spiritist centers throughout the United States. I recommend anyone, whatever country you are in, to look for a Spiritist center. Go talk to them. Go ask them. If there's not any Spiritist center within any type of decent distance, start your own little study group. You will be helped by spirits, right? Find a time at night, the same time, one night a week, and just meditate yourself. Spirits will know, have that regular time. Spirits will come and help you. So I will just leave you there. Again, bless everybody. I would like to thank everyone for listening to our program on Kardec Radio. and to point you in the direction to find more information about the spirit world around us. You can visit my blog at www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that is www.nw as in Northwest Spiritism.com. And if you are ever in the Northwest, I certainly would welcome to have you come to our meeting on Bainbridge Island near Seattle in the state of Washington. Many blessings to all of you, and please continue to explore Spiritism and the spirit world around us. Good night, everyone, and we have a wonderful